Athlete Builder back at it. My guy, I can't tell you how many times we tried to get here, but we're here. And so Briggs Pittman today, and right off the bat, want to shout out Alex Rogers for making the introduction. Thanks for doing that, Alex. And as always, we're brought to you by the AEA Institute, where we have the Mental Edge Academy. Summer deals are going on, 90-day boot camps, where we are building athletes on high school and college teams on their mental performance, which is very apropos that we have Briggs here today, former Army 82nd Airborne.
Yes,
From
sir.
the looks of things in the background, and he does plenty of hunting and spends most of his time in the Jiu Jitsu world, where he works at a gym but travels the country and is a national level referee. So we have had athletes, we've had coaches, we're now having a referee to get a different perspective, but he also lives within the sport. So welcome to the show, Briggs.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So would you rather win a national title, coach an athlete to win a national title, or referee a national title?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say coach. Yeah, I would say coach. Winning, right? That means I'm still in the sport and I've proven myself to do it. Refereeing, they just paid me to show up, but I'm like probably the highest level referee. But coaching, you probably had a great career in the sport and now you're either running a gym or academy or something like that, and probably full circle, pretty successful all around, you know.
So if you only pick one, coaching someone,
Coaching, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I feel like, if you're coaching a national champion in anything, you probably had a great career in that yourself. And then you're probably, doing great. You probably have a gym full of killers. It's probably not just one champion. Iron sharpens iron. So I'd rather have
I don't.
that than the individual.
It's so unique. It's so rare that any high level anybody does it on their own. Power
Mhm.
lifter, basketball player, right? Jordan still had Pippen and Rodman, two other Hall of Famers. So to get there, you're right. You got to have outstanding leadership and coaching. But even if you're telling them to do the right things, if they're just going against much lower level caliber people, they're never going to be good enough to win at the high level.
Mhm.
Hmm. So if it's jujitsu, any other expertise, taekwondo, judo, karate, etc.
No, sir. Nope. Just jujitsu. I train MMA. I do MMA. So, but I don't compete in MMA. I try to stay away from the CT and the head damage.
Right?
So once it comes to like slurring the words and everything, you get to pull back. But when you're training to compete in MMA, obviously you have to spar hard. So you kind of have to keep your foot on the pedal. But with grappling, you don't. It's a lot of like closed loop motions versus open loop. So if you get the proper grapplers around you, you can stay virtually injury free pretty regularly,
And if you don't have the right people around you,
pretty unregularly. So
right?
you'll hear grapplers say, or martial artists in general, they'll be like, that guy's spastic, or that's a spastic white belt, or I don't like rolling or grappling with that guy, he's a spaz. And essentially I've learned is it's not they're spastic, it's that they just train in open loop. So like a wrestler grabs you, lat drops you, that's like an open loop movement, like swinging a baseball bat. There's no stopping that once it starts. And grapplers pretty much tend to usually side versus closed loop, like where at any point I can stop this movement and like we won't harm each other. So I like to stay in I'm almost 30, so I like to stay in the closed loop, which grappling's pretty friendly. You get a good amount of grapplers and they try to stay out of the open loop. Or if you do like open loop movements with like takedowns, you do it like fresh into practice. Once you start getting tired and sloppy, you transition to like closed loop ground game.
Gotcha. And when I look over your history right here, and it's a pretty awesome bio, I see you played a ton of sports, right? You love baseball, lacrosse, swimming, even ultimate frisbee, but you spent most of your time and energy in the football world. Walk me through, you're finishing up high school, you're playing sports, and the transition from high school to the period when you decide I'm going to be in the military.
Yeah. So I knew I was going to be in the military. Like when I was 14, I was like, I'm going in the military, and my parents were like, "Oh, you don't know yet. You're pretty young." And I loved football. I just fell. I was like in a very elective size. My dad was a collegiate linebacker. I was too small to play linebacker, but I was too slow to play anything else. So, like linebackers have to be like big and strong. I was like, 5'9" in high school, like a buck 70, and you're just not going to be a collegiate linebacker at that. But you could be like a good corner or something. But, I was a slow white player, dude. I could not play any fast spots. So I could play in high school, but after that, I just couldn't. I couldn't, there wasn't a spot for me. I was too small for the ones I could play, but not fast enough to play the ones I had the size for.
Gotcha. So, did you go right from high school to the army?
I did. Yep. Graduated high school, went in the army. I did my training. I had a airborne contract. So I went to Fort Benning, did my infantry training. I was 11 Charlie, a mortarman. And then I went to airborne school. And then I went to 82nd.
82nd. I'm sure you get asked and about watching Band of Brothers with about the 82nd Airborne World War II series.
Man, I love that, dude. I could watch the 82nd on repeat.
Mm, I've
I
seen it
mean,
a
sorry,
number of
Band of Brothers. Yeah, about
Band
the
of Brothers.
82nd. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there? Did you guys train anywhere they did? I remember they were running that Currahee Hill early on in their training. Carry over from then till now.
I don't think so. No, we hit the hill a lot. Our drill sergeant was fond of us hitting the hill, but I don't think it was the same hill. So you have these areas essentially with all your barracks and the CPAs in the middle, and then we had a hill about half a mile away. So that was our hill we'd hit. And anytime we messed up or anyone did anything wrong, he'd just, hit the hill, and we'd have to go do a mile. It's half a mile there. So we go do a mile run and come back. Same
Gotcha.
premise, different hill.
Gotcha. So your first time jumping, I've jumped out of, well, I kind of limped and fell out of two airplanes, and someone was attached to me doing all the work. But your first time coming out of an airplane, would they say a perfectly good airplane? Walk me through the mindset of, hey man, this is real now, and we're moving forward.
Um, well, it's pretty simple. The Black Hats, you have a 3-week school. I think it's like 21 days, if I can remember. You have a 3-week school at Fort Benning Airborne School. And the Black Hats there, if anyone doesn't know, they wear black hats, and that's how you know it's a jump master or like cadre at the airborne school. And it is the most professional, systematic school. They taught us from nothing to perfectly leaving an aircraft in 3 weeks. It's just they get you so systematic. It's like they read off a script. Everything they teach you is scripted. Like anytime you hear a black hat speak, it's verbatim every single time for 3 weeks in a row. Um, like you never hear them. They all say the same scripted lines and everything. And like, unless they're chewing you out or smoking you, they're pretty much for 3 weeks drilling you with exactly what you need to do. Like they're reading it off like the TM itself. So by the time the jump comes around, you've heard everything like feet, knees together, gain canopy, check canopy control. Like all these different sayings they have. You've heard it so many times. It's just like second nature.
Hmm. As a civilian and doing it recreationally, in my first time, I think it was my first time. Yeah. So every time the small little plane would go up with a group of jumpers, they had the professionals going up with them. They get attached while they're inside for a tandem jump, and you just kind of lean forward. And the plane with all the passengers that was right before my group, it lands, and the guy that's going to be attached to me, he's walking towards the hangar, and he's carrying this cord in his hand that's not attached to anything else. And all the other professionals, that they recognized what that was immediately. I had no idea. Apparently he pulled his first chute, and he pulled the cord, and the cord ripped off. So he had to pull his auxiliary, his second chute, so that they could land safely. But he held on to that first cord, so when he walked in, he's holding that first cord, I guess, that you pull, and it wasn't attached to anything. And people are like, oh no, wow, hey. I'm like, what's that? And they said, well, this first chute
My
ripped.
life.
Yeah, his first chute didn't open, so he had to go to the second one. And I'm like, I was already scared to death as it was, right? Because it's you show up, you go through this little course, and I'm gonna be. And then I thought, well, this guy had the wherewithal to be calm under pressure and pull the second chute. It's a good thing I'm attached to that guy, right? So
Mhm.
that's how my first event went. You just kind of leaned forward, and like going on that first hill on a roller coaster, I'm just screaming my ass off, and once he pulled that cord and there's that big jarring motion when the chute deploys and you get kind of stabilized, we're just kind of like going around in a circle, spiraling on the way down very systematically. And it was, man, so peaceful. And he's like, "Hey, this is my office every day." And I was like, "Dang, this is pretty neat." Now, you have to jump ready to fight and be a weapon. Completely different than, hey, Jim's just doing on a blue sky day out in Indianapolis. But was there any like holy shit moments when you get to basic or you're at jump school and you're like, oh man, this is a lot more than I kind of bargained for?
No, I wouldn't say like more than I bargained for. You definitely have some like oh shit moments, and but that was kind of like more on the cooler training where a lot of times when you're in training, you'd hear people say like this isn't Call of Duty and they'd always refer to Black Ops. This isn't Black Ops. We're not doing cool shit. And there's some moments when you're doing like Black Ops stuff, like you play in the video game and it's like surreal. I grew up in the Black Ops era. So there was definitely some moments in training, like when all the lights are out on the plane and you only have green lights and you look around, everyone's kitted up and we're coming and the doors open and ice cold air is in the C-130 or something. And you start watching dudes leave the aircraft under the green light. You're like, man, this is like Black Ops. This is pretty cool.
Right, right, right.
Or you got like nods on and like, CH-47, you're doing like an air assault mission and like the tailgate comes down and you see everyone under the nods run out and like lay down. You're like, I don't know, man, this is kind of like Black Ops. So, but that stuff's the lipstick stuff, there's moments like that. But no, I wouldn't say too overwhelming. If you have good cadre or good chain of command, ideally they just mentally prepare you for all that. You've walked, run, and, sprinted the course beforehand 1,000 times in every different facet. So getting there on like game day isn't like a guessing procedure. It should just be rehearsing at that point. We've already tangoed 1,000 times. We just have to do it live now.
Gotcha. There's this phrase, and there's a number of things I like about Bruce Lee where he says, I don't really fear someone that's practiced 1,000 different kicks. I fear someone that's practiced one kick 1,000 times. And so I
Hmm.
couple that thought with the information you just said about those cadres when they're teaching you. It was like it was scripted, it was verbatim, it was so granular and consistent that it helped not make you guys robots, but completely systematic in your training and your approach to a really serious thing.
Hmm.
Talk about how that same approach occurs training fighters.
It does. Yeah. So obviously you want to take out the guesswork and, if you've fought or done any type of hard training, like as fatigue sets in, your mind starts to wander and like you have all these thoughts. So if you can replace that with like a systematic um, approach or saying, that someone can refer to in times of pain, then it helps, like check canopy, gain canopy control is a saying you hear 1,000 times. It's essentially like look up at your parachute, make sure it's opened, and then control it so you don't die. Um, and it's like the first time you're falling out of the aircraft, like I remember the first time I was counting, you have like a count to make sure your chute deploys. I counted and then I immediately looked up because we had done it so many times, but if they would all probably been saying different things or not doing it so systematically, then it's not such a system. With fighters, I think it's the same way. I would just say like fighting's different. You have to tailor it because like this program was like, if you want to be a paratrooper, you're going to do it our way or you're not going to do it. And fighters, you can have a coach who can make almost anyone a good fighter. He just does it. He does the same thing, but he does it at an approach that works for them. And then you have some coaches who are like cadre, where like if you're either going to fight the way I want you to, or you're just going to not fight, or you're going to be bad. Like some fighters respond better to super hard sparring. Like we're just going to spar hard all the time. And, some fighters do great with that and they make careers off it. And then some do great tech sparring where like we're not going to hit as hard, but we're going to do a lot of movement, a lot of flinching and stuff. And I think the biggest thing is coaches, can see what's advantageous to grow each fighter. And then they do kind of the independent plan. Like I might train one fighter different than I would train another, but they're both great fighters. Yeah, and the cadre way is you'll hear him say it all the time. If you want to be airborne, you got to do it my way. Essentially, like we're going to do it this way, or you're not going to do it.
Sure, sure. There's not as much variability, probably. Now, the weather could
Hmm.
be different, situations could be different than an actual fight. In a fight, it's live and it's random and but still structured a little bit, but it's every second it's completely different from a prior fight. Whereas you guys are jumping off a plane, hopefully in a system. Talk
Hmm.
about when you're training athletes or coaching fighters, and maybe they, like you said, the hard grappling, the hard sparring, but that's not really moving the needle much anymore. You
Hmm.
know, like for me, I like squatting, I like pushing sleds and heavy kettlebell swings. But after a while, I'm gonna have to do something else, right? I can't just do the things I love to do all the time. Um, One, I'll probably get hurt because I neglected other areas. So talk about though when you have an athlete focusing on what they love to do, but it's not necessarily getting them a lot better right now because they're not hitting their weaknesses.
Yeah, so I would say like it kind of is like I think about it as muscle confusion. You know, you hear like muscle confusion, you got to confuse a muscle to grow the muscle. And I think the same thing is true, but like with our like willingness to train and our urgency to train and enjoying training. Like you said, like how many times can you go do squat, bench, and deadlift until you're just like, I just don't want to do this anymore. So, you know, as our coach would say, like you have to spruce it up and dress it up and change it up to keep someone motivated to train. Because the one thing you can't beat is discipline and motivation. If someone has the discipline, but on top of that, the motivation to come do the work, essentially like their why is big enough to come do the things other people don't want to do, then essentially they become unstoppable, especially you compound that with like immense amount of time, you know, and years. So a lot of people have the discipline, they come train, but then they train with maybe coaches or a facility that just keeps it so boring. And like you said, like how many times can I do this until I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So luckily I train under a coach who has opposite mindset. Like the first thing's safety, but then after that it's fun. You have to want to come train. Because if you come and train with me for 10 years because it's fun, I can teach you anything in 10 years. Like you'll be an expert in anything at 10 years. But if I just train you to be like super efficient, but it's boring, well, and you stop training in like a year and a half, well, who wins? I mean, the year and a half grappler isn't even an expert. And the guy who's been learning, you know, 10% less or 90% less, but 10 years down the line, he's been motivated to train this whole time. You know, he's an expert, he's a black belt, and then
Sure.
super lethal. So that's what I try to tell, you know, coaches now, you know, because I manage the program and I'm constantly pulling and changing coaches and staff to coach other people. And I don't want to like step in too much. Obviously, their classes are class. I don't want to tell you how to teach, but I do recommend like, hey, our best instructors that have the best attendance do this. You should talk to them, pick their brain, but it's always like safety and then it's fun, safety and fun. And then that keeps people, you know, coming back to class for years on end. And over years on end, you can teach anyone, anyone. I mean, you could learn a language and be fluent in it in 5 years if you try. So, but if it's not fun, you're like, I'm not doing it.
That's a part that I could be better at, honestly. I'm probably one of the worst at my gym that I run in that I gravitate to whatever's boring but most effective. And then knowing that the fundamentals and the main thing is the main thing. So I probably do that more than others want, and I'm okay with it being boring. But you're right. Like even one of our core values is enjoyment because if you don't enjoy it, you'll stop training. And that's just to be well-rounded and healthy. So that's a piece I could absolutely get better at. Um, I think you make the most money by working on the fundamentals. But again, if you stop, then who cares, right? Because you stopped, right? And so keeping it fun along the way is absolutely huge. One of the things I like to do is prepare by having questions written out and going over bios and such. And I'm looking over yours, and I asked you about your talk about your journey from high school till now, and you said my past is my motivation to put my future self and family where they need to be. So it's very fresh in my mind. So then the question is, what was your past that leads to this strong why?
Yeah, essentially, I just like to, be a leader. And I think every man should lead their family. And, I think some men lean away from their past or they use it to like enable bad behaviors or lack of discipline or, I do this because of that or I act this way because of this happened. And I think if more, I try to have the mindset of like whatever happens in the past in a negative way is just my fuel in a positive way. So whether it's like something that makes you angry or some type of trauma, like it's going to build an emotion. It's going to have an emotional response. We're emotional humans. And you can use that to build like firewood and keep yourself warm in dark times, or you can burn down the house with it. So I always remind myself like whatever is happening or continuing to happen that I don't want to, like that's good. We're just going to use that to motivate ourselves to like, be some type of fuel to get out of the situation, which is just it's like a mindset thing. Like I like to think there's nothing bad that can happen. Don't get me wrong, bad things are going to happen, but I'm going to find a way to shift it to something positive. So, it's
Gotcha.
just the past is going to make your future if you just look at it the right way.
Sure. And I would hear from other adults or kids, I'm this way because of my parents, because that's their past. And it's true. Like I'm shaped by my parents and they're shaped by their own parents. And so any mindsets or positives or negatives or the way they look at life or the way they look at faith or health and wellness, however they grew up impacts how they're living, right? And then it gets passed on generation to generation. One of the things you pointed out that for you and your family that making people laugh is arguably one of your favorite skills.
I do, man. I like to be a jokester. In grade school, I always was, in trouble for trying to crack jokes. But, I don't like people around me to be, upset or hating life too much. I like to come in and bring a warm environment, hug the people I'm around, build a community, laugh, make them joke. So, you do it long enough and you'll have some bad jokes that don't land. You'll eat your shoe on a few of them, but you get pretty good at it.
Where does that stem from?
Definitely just trying to, like come into a room and be welcomed. I try to tell people they're like, if you want people to have community, you got to be willing to give it first. People like, oh, I want a sense of community. And I'm like, well, the things you want, just give it first. Like if you want people to be like, oh, Jim, good to see you and give you a hug, show up, say their name, give them a hug, ask them how they're doing. And then usually people, they'll reciprocate it. That's how the community is. But I've learned a lot of people, especially in men, the egos get in the way and they're like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that shit. Nah. And I'm like, well, dude, if you do it first, man, and grapplers are the best at it. When you walk into a grappling room, we're all hugging each other, joking, So
So is that something that you grew up with then, where someone in the room was funny? Or was a room not so fun and it was a coping mechanism? Or is it just, man, just something that kind of came from the military? Or but you said growing up, you're always kind of a jokester, so I kind of
yeah,
wonder.
yeah, it's a good question. I'd probably say it comes from teams. Like I always played on teams, I always played on like, football teams, baseball teams, swimming teams. So like, teams are usually always joking around, shooting the shit, coking and joking. So I'd say like, it's probably just fitting in with the team over all the years.
Okay. So my favorite thing to talk about is mindset because I like to get in people's heads, find out why they do things, how they move forward, and when they're hit with whatever event, how do they adapt and overcome, etc. I love how the mind works and can propel or ruin lives, right? How do these choices get made? And what are the trends that are learnable? One of the first questions I ask about having topics to discuss today, you wrote, I love to talk about how far people could get in their endeavors if they just adopted a new mindset. And mindset could be any of 1,000 different ways, right? 1,000 different things.
Mhm.
But you then went on to say and label it a champion's mindset. Well, Briggs characterizes or what are the characteristics of a champion's mindset?
Um, that's a good one. Um, I do. I always tell my grapplers or anyone I coach, like you have people that are extraordinary in one thing, like they might be good at tennis, they might be good at baseball. And then you have some people that just want to be good at everything, and that's kind of like we always know Michael Jordan was like that, whether it was like golf, basketball, or like anything he played, he wanted to win. And so I think that's you can have a champion, right? Like I'm the best at this sport, but I don't think all champions have champion mindsets. That's just my take on it. Like I can be the best in a sport and be a champion in a sport, but then like, my home life sucks, my family's falling apart, or, like I don't care about being good at this other part or this other sport. And I think the
Hmm.
champion's mindset is like, if I'm going to invest time in it, I just want to be the best. They're kind of like hyper focused and hyper competitive. And that's when you get like people refer to it as like the champion of champions. And that's kind of how I think about the champion mindset. Like, why settle for being great at one thing when you could just try to be great at everything and the only thing stopping you is you?
Sure.
They're like, "Oh, well, I'm the best tennis player." Okay, well, why don't you just try to be the best at everything? Like you've done it in one thing, you could do it in everything. You've proven you can do it. And the only thing stopping them is essentially just that decision of like, I'm just going to try to be better at everything. So
Sure.
that's why I like jujitsu so much is because even if you're a black belt and you have a great game and you come into the training room, it's like we can find something to get you better at. Like you have flaws somewhere. So even though you're mauling everyone in here and you're super sharp and you're cutting through everyone, there's something we can get better at. And it's kind of like the common mindset in a grappling room or jujitsu. Like we can get sharper. You're never like you can always get sharper. And that's what I mean by like the champion mindset. Like you can always be better.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's ever going to be top of the food chain in everything. Or if you're elite level grappler, you're not going to be playing in the symphonies and you're not going to be a high level professor and you're not going to be an astronaut. However, to your point, I think you can be elite in whatever your main endeavor is. And outside of that, live your life to your best. Like, so, hey, so you can still be a legit dad, a legit spouse, have a legit faith, but you're not going to be a priest spending your whole life in that endeavor, right? While you're also a full time athlete. So obviously, you're going to have your main focus, but still in the other areas of your life, you don't want to be, that deficient. I would say. And when I listen to Tony Robbins and a bunch of others, they'll say that nobody who's really has like I don't have to call it an elite level mindset, but it's the same thing in that no one wants to be some schlep in some area. So I was just at Ohio State a few days ago. They had this coaches clinic. It's the 94th year they've done it where they pour into local high school coaches where the entire Ohio State staff is pouring into them. And when any of the Ohio State staff members, coaches would walk by, they're all in shape. 25, 35, 55 years old. Didn't matter. They're all in shape. They're still so living that lifestyle as a high level coach, they're working 10, 12-hour days sometimes, right? But they're still making the time to be in shape. And I thought, man, they're just living at that high level. And they would all talk about, hey, I know that we're working a lot of hours, but we're still making time for our faith and family. And I'm like, that's just super huge, super huge. So for a lot of folks and entities, they like to crystallize their identity with some core values or words. So Briggs, if I had to ask you, what are your top three, four, five, six core values or words that summarize who you want to be and who you aspire to be? What might those be?
That's a good question. I'd definitely say discipline. Yeah, discipline, leadership, like protector. I like to the way I try to teach, grapplers and fighters is like the first goal is protect yourself and learn how to fight and defend your own body. And then if you do that efficiently enough, you get blessed with the responsibility and superpower to protect the people around you. So if you're in the room with like Sean Strickland, he's probably not going to let someone like beat up on a woman or a kid. He's learned how to, defend himself, and now he has the ability to defend others around him. Which is so that's kind of how I describe that. But yeah, I would say discipline, protector, um, strength, honor, like all the good ones, the military ones. I could just read off the list for Band of Brothers pretty much.
Right?
But, I think they all go hand in hand. You have discipline. So then you have strength and honor because you have discipline. You like that little voice in the back of your head that says, man, you shouldn't do that. well, then you have the discipline to listen to it. So then there comes the honor. You know, you have
Mhm.
discipline and honor. So that little voice that's like, you know, you should probably get up and work out and run. You're like getting out of shape. Where there comes the strength. Then you have all those three, and then that now you have the protector because anyone who has those three is arguably always a protector. Like strength, honor, and discipline are always the people who are protecting other people. You know, it's like the dude jumping on the grenade or the person who stands up and says like, "Hey, you can't bully someone like that." So, but I think it all starts with discipline. So I guess if I had to pick one out of those four, I think discipline and then the rest come in order.
What about jokester?
Yeah, yeah,
Funny
that's a good
funny
one. Yeah,
what about,
so no one
comedian?
yeah, yeah, so no one, you know, you don't wanna hang around like a David Goggins type character all the time, but if we can get some, you know, some jokes in there and have fun doing it, you know, and then so, yeah, definitely jokester.
I don't know if you've read the book Living with Seal.
No, I haven't.
It's short. You crank it out in a day or a weekend, and it's Jesse Itzler, who is a part owner of Atlanta Hawks, and his wife. They're uber wealthy folks. She created Spanx, which is a undergarment that women wear. And you don't know this throughout the book. It's not written in the book, it's advertised anywhere, but Jesse hires a SEAL to live with him and run his life in physicality and discipline for 30 days, and ends up being David Goggins. And if you know of any of David's videos or speeches, you can hear his voice through the book. And yeah, there's gonna be a few lessons here and there, but it's hysterical. It's laugh out loud. My wife's driving a car. I'm reading this book. I'm laughing out loud by what's going on. I thought
Yeah, I'm
about this the the uh the core values thing for a long time, and it was over a course of weeks when I was putting together the core values for the gym. And then I added one more later, and it's probably too many. But I started with integrity, so along your lines of honor, trying to do the right thing. And then
mhm,
the discipline piece was number two because you're trying to do the right thing all the time, no matter what, as best you can. Then I
mhm,
thought, well, if I'm doing the right thing, but am I getting better? So then I threw in the word kaizen, which is a Japanese term where you're looking for constant improvement. So, okay, so I'm doing the right thing all the time and I'm trying to get better. Well, then I thought, to your point, yeah, no one gets there alone. So then I had to throw in teamwork. And then I thought, well, that's just grinding all the time. So I need Briggs's jokester approach. So the fifth word was um, enjoyment. And then finally, the last word is this word from Finland, which is the mantra for the entire country. I am not from Finland, but the word is sisu, where it means you just never give up. No matter what's going on, you just never give up on what you're doing. So if I'm doing my best all the time, trying to get better with my team, having a good time, and never give up. And then I read this book by Tim Grover, the book called Relentless. I thought, well, the mantra for applying those six words is the word relentless. And then I just painted on the walls in the gym and got tattoos with it. And here we are. And I spent months trying to figure out how to crystallize and encapsulate what I aspire to be about, fail daily at, but still working towards. So I like that you had a bunch of those words that are very impactful and impressive. Shifting total gears, because you mentioned David, when I think of David, I think about Cameron Haynes because they like to do endurance work together,
mhm.
and then
Yeah, ultra
I see those skulls and antlers on your wall, and I remember that you also there's a world of grappling and wrestling and jiu-jitsu and MMA, but you also like to be out by yourself in the quiet hunting elk. Totally different
yeah,
sport,
I
totally different thing. So, talk about that aspect of your life and how you get some joy out of that.
Yeah, so, first off, yeah, I follow a lot of Cam Hanes. He's the main part why I started elk hunting. I got out of the army. I went in the oil field. I was working like 120 hours a week in the oil field, like inspecting welds. Um, and then one of the guys got me into hunting who I grew up with, and I started hunting, and I fell in love with it. And I was like, man, I was looking, you know, obviously I'm looking up hunting stuff on my social media, so the algorithms feeding me everything hunting. I'm watching like Meat Eater, Cameron Haynes. I'm watching this dude like run a marathon a day to go run in the Moab 240.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
you know, and he's hunting elk and he's getting elk every year. And I remember him like being like, you know, this is the hardest thing ever to do. And I remember Joe Rogan talking about it on the podcast. So I was like, you know, I'm going to go hunt elk. So I tried that, and the learning curve with elk, I hunted one season, so I hunted like 2 months with a buddy assisted, and then that was like, October, November. I just made the decision to hunt right before rifle season, and if anyone doesn't hunt, rifle season for deer is always like October, November, and then the season's over at middle of December, like end of December. So I've been in the hunting world. He helped me get a few deer on his like private land um, in Virginia. And then after that, I was like, dude, I want to go hunt elk. So I bought a bow, a compound bow. I went to a archery store, and they're Olympic archers, First Flight in Raleigh. Awesome. They hooked me up. They tailored me a bow. I bought a Carbon RX4, a Hoyt, right? Again, I was like, man, this is what Cam talked about. So I'll just buy this one. I get it tailored out. I train for 9 months, and then I go to Colorado and hunt for 30 days. I hunt the whole bow season by myself. And I didn't get one. I learned a lot of stuff. I shot at one, which is awesome. If anyone's ever bow hunted elk, that's, I mean, elk are like a unicorn. Every time you see an elk when you hunt in public land, heavy pressured areas, you see one and you're like, oh my God, it's a unicorn. So to even get a shot off at one at like 50 yards, 12 days in, it was awesome. I had a great time. So, but then I was like, I had to come home and eat tag soup. I drove 30 hours. I hunted, right? I got there like 12 days early, hunted the season, came back, was all over Colorado, just trying to figure it out, doing the thing. And then when I came back and had tag soup, I was like, no, I'm going to get good at this. This could be awesome. So then I just doubled down, learned even more. I enjoy hunting with a bow. I don't enjoy hunting elk with a bow. I enjoy hunting with a rifle just because, like, you'll hear the saying where a rifle hunt ends, a bow hunt begins. And if I could only hunt one elk a year, I would go with a bow, and then I would take the 30 days and do it. And I'm confident I would get one. But I try getting about 1,100 pounds of meat a season through game animals. So, people are like, oh, you should hunt with a bow. Don't get me wrong. I'm an efficient killer with a bow, but I'll be tagged out in like a weekend. So what I do is I hunt with a bow, I tag out, and then I just start jumping states and I go around different states. So like I'll use bow season, I'll hunt some deer, then I'll go hunt rifle season for elk, and then I'll come back, and you can start jumping around and collecting a whole bunch of tags because a state will limit how much you get in a state. So to get enough game animal meat to feed your family, you have to play several different states. And to do that with the bow, um, you know, is is difficult. It's not as efficient to put the meat in the cooler, you know.
Sure.
I enjoy I guess I enjoy eating the meat more and like making a beautiful elk steak or deer steak on the plate and like watching the family dig into it. I love that way more than like having just getting one with a different weapon.
Gotcha. Don't you need some income if you're hunting around for 3 months out of the year?
You do, yeah. I work hard from January, and that's kind of funny. Like, you know, I I learned this in the oil field. The one cool thing about the oil field is you guys would work 120 hours and then they would have their, because when you work, it's not really a career where you do like 60 hours. They're like, no, you're on this thing, you're working, you're continuous to work. But then they would give you ample amounts of off time. So like guys might work for 6 weeks straight and then have like 2 months off. And so as long as they budget the properly, you're good to go. So the oil field was like, hey, just remember, like, you're working 120 hours a week, but like you might have the next 2 months off. So don't just spend all your money. So I try to pack in the work, cram it in. Like, January to July is hard. Just like I'm just trying to work as much as I possibly can. That way, as it gets close to September, I can start to like gracefully bow out of responsibilities.
Gotcha. Man, once you shoot, an animal, you gotta gut it, dress it, and I remember one guy I knew, he was a guide in Alaska, and they had killed a moose, and they had to quarter it and haul it out, and those things are, on the hoof, 900 pounds, right, or more. Uh, and if you hike in for a ways, it's a it's a big ruck and a drag hauling it out, man. So, talk about, some the endurance and the mental fortitude you're gonna need once you find your animal, kill it, and then you gotta start hauling it out. Like, just getting there and making it happen, you're nowhere close to done.
Yeah, so the easy part is walking around hunting, and it's the easy hard part, but the physically challenging, mentally daunting task is after you, harvest the animal, kill the animal, because typically hooved animals, deer, elk, you're getting in the first hour, the last hour. So like I either kill it in the first hour and then I'm like, let me wait till noon to go look. I don't want to bump it. I might as well just let it play out if I don't watch it drop. But then if you shoot them in the last hour, you're still like, let me at least give it an hour or two before I go look for blood. Especially if it's like a dicey area, like it goes into like a weird thicket. You're like, let me just give it some time. So you're not even getting to the work part until, you know, 2 hours in the dark. You're tired. You've been up all day. If you're elk hunting, you woke up at 4 a.m., you've been walking around the Rockies. Now I find an elk. I finally find the elk an hour past dark or right before dark. And I'm about to start this daunting process of cleaning it, packing it out. There's no way to like lipstick it up. It sucks, but I enjoy it. That's my favorite thing ever. Like, walking up on a, 600-pound elk and then being like, oh, dude, this is what I live for. So, and it's enjoyable. The one thing I'll say about it's just like anything, you have to eat an elephant one bite at a time. I don't get too focused on it. One thing I've learned is if I get tired, I just rest. I'm not in a rush back to the truck. The great thing about like hunting in the Rockies and not hunting in bow season, if you hunt in bow season, you're literally against the clock. Like the meat is on the way to spoil. It's 85 degrees out sometimes. When you hunt rifle season, it's cold. Like it's probably 30 degrees. If it's bad
Yes.
weather, it's probably 15. So like I can literally walk away from this thing for 3 days if it's in the shade and I'll be fine.
Yeah. As
After
long
I
as the
quarter it up.
as long as the wolves
So
don't find it.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I just, take my time, rest. Some things I've learned elk hunting is like I won't skin an elk. I won't clean out and quarter an elk if I'm too tired. I did it not this past year, but the year before. I was with one of my sniper buddies, Logan. And, just out of pure fatigue, same thing. We've been hunting all day. We got his bull the day before. We just got on my bull. We got his elk, probably the first person to kill an elk in Colorado that year. I mean, like the sun had been up 30 minutes. We get this awesome bull, spent all day getting it back to the truck hard. And then I'm like, well, I'm in the shoot now. So I'm like, I'm going. So the next day we wake up, get a bull in the morning, cleaning it. I'm working the knife towards me out of fatigue, just dumb. I'm like, I'm not going to walk to the other side. I'm just going to work this knife towards me. Pop right
No.
through the hide and pop the knife right, probably right under my femoral. And I'm just looking at it sticking in my leg. And luckily, Logan is a field surgeon. Like he's the dude where if I had to almost cut my femoral, I couldn't have done it in front of a better person. And like, so it skips, like I go to cut through the hide, the knife skips right through the hide and pops into my leg. And I just knew right where the location was. I was like, oh no, dude, did I just kill myself? And
No.
dude, it's so scary. And he looks at me and he just freezes. He goes, take your pants off. Let me look at it. Cause this is what he does in the military. And it actually is funny. I tell him never to listen to me because he asked me about bringing a med kit. And I was like, man, that's just too heavy. Just leave it. We don't need it. And luckily he brought the med kit. So he like looks at it and everything. He's like, oh man, dude, you missed it. He's like, don't worry. I brought the med kit. I would have saved you. It would have been dirty, but I would have saved you. So I say that now. A few lessons I've learned is like if I'm fatigued, I'll just gut the elk. Like I'll open and get the intestines out so it doesn't spoil. And then I'll get it in the morning. You know,
Gotcha.
there's some, because when you work up an elk, if you do it properly, and the thing is like have you ever taken off bloody gloves? And you know how there's a proper way to take them off where you don't cross contaminate and get blood everywhere? You kind of have
Gotcha.
to like grab the edge and pull them over so you don't cross contaminate anything. So with game, when deer and elk rut, they get this musk all over them. Deer have a tarsal gland that they piss all over, and elk something similar, but they like piss all over the underside of their belly. And so like when you see a bull elk, the hole from like their lower ears down the underside of their belly will be black. And what that is that's them, they've been peeing on the underside of them to make this musk for, weeks. So when you get up to an elk and you kill it, right, or a deer, not only do I have to get the meat off, but I have to get the meat off without getting any of this shit on the meat, or it tastes absolutely horrible. So it's like I've learned if you don't do it slow and you don't take your time, you get that tarsal gland or that musk all over the meat. And then when you're at the dinner table, you're like, "Oh man, that tastes ruddy." You're like, "No, man, that's piss. You're tasting piss."
Oh God. All right. Lesson learned. I didn't know that. My wife has been to Rocky Mountain a number of times. It's just her favorite place. And it's usually the national park, but we go to some other spots too in Summit County. And the first time she takes me to the national park, we're on the west side, and like 80-90% of the folks that go there, they're on the east side of the park. And we're at this. We had hiked in the morning and saw some waterfalls and whatnot. And then we're over at this one little spot where hey, they had a picnic table. So we were having some food, and I finished, and I knew that there was a lake nearby. I was just going to walk over to it, and I come right around this corner, and there's trees, and I come around the corner on this trail, and sitting there on the trail, chewing on some leaves. I don't know, it wasn't even much, but is this elk staring right at me, and it's man, 10, no, 5 yards, like it's right there, and just chewing, and his tongue is out, like licking his face, looking right at me, and I'm looking right at him. Jen's like, "What is it?" I go, "There's an elk right in front of me." And she goes, "Get on the other side of that tree and just walk back up slowly, because I don't want the thing charged at me with those antlers, ready to spear right in front of me, or spear me." And I was like, "Oh shit!" And he's just kind of looking at me, and there's just tongues everywhere, this super long tongue just chewing along, and I just back up behind this tree and start walking backwards. I didn't have any kind of weapon on me. I'm just there going hiking with my wife, right? And that was the first time I was like, "Shit, that thing's pretty big." And got some long, pointy antlers that could stick through some people. So it was, awesome day. And I still love everything about it. But that was my probably my first experience ever with an elk. And nothing like gut one and like you have though. So quite a diverse background. Likes a lot of sports. Very active. Was in the military. Works with people like to fight. Very outdoorsy. Um, Likes to hunt. But you're married as well, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes, sir.
so all about creating teammates and talk about mindset. And so I'm guessing that your wife make a great team with an interesting lifestyle about being physical, driven, and you guys must complement each other if she's saying, "Hey man, it's cool if you're gone for 30 days at a time." Talk about the importance of teamwork and teammates in the different endeavors of your life.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so the main thing is, I think she supports me so much hunting because she's seen what I can do with my time and energy. So when I'm like, "Hey, I wanna go elk hunt for, like, 15 days," she's like, "Yeah, I think that's a great way to spend your energy." So
Get out. See you later.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I like to think, I refer to it as this is what I've kinda learned in my marriage. Like, I have to explain, like, some men are like Labradors. They're cool with just laying on the couch and not doing anything. And then some are like Malinois. Like, if you give them that, they're gonna lose their mind, or it's just gonna turn into, like, aggression or some other emotion that needs to get out. And I'm like more of the Malinois. Like, I have to be up at 4 a.m., running, working out, doing hard things all day, or I'm just going to be a shell of the man I could. Um, so I don't think it just stimulates from like understanding. She knows I enjoy it and like I have this immense amount of energy and it has to go somewhere. And like hunting and running and working out probably aren't, bad places to put it. But like, just like I use the dog example because the energy is gonna go somewhere. It can be like something that's like building, right? Or it can just take a diversion and go somewhere. So we try to be a team. I mean, she knows I enjoy it. I want her to do anything, she enjoys, and we try to be copacetic and building and sharpening each other.
Awesome. This other note you had here, I was curious about this. When I asked you about recovery and you said sleep, and everyone says sleep because that is the answer, the number one answer. When I feel like the world is ending and I want to lay down and die, very theatrical. It's time for some REM sleep. And then I wake up, all is well again. And for me, when I am at that point where the world's caving in and everything's going wrong, I can't sleep very well. I go to bed early. I lie there. I try to focus on certain things that are gonna give me pause and stress, but ultimately, I'll wake up every night like that 2 or 3 times, and some thought about what needs to happen next to deal with the stress is always in the front of my mind, so that I might not sleep well for days or weeks until the problem is fixed and
Mhm.
addressed. How are you able to just lay down and get some REM sleep like, "Hey, man, I'll be fine once I wake up because I don't sleep well. My mind is still cooking along here trying to fix problems." You're able to detach and make that happen. How does that happen? 'Cause I need that. So I'm
Yeah.
looking to learn right now.
So yeah, actually, my wife would love this question because I always touch up with her. I used to sleep like shit. One thing I've learned is like I try to be the thing that helps me with my sleep the most is I can, see in real time usually what's going to keep me up at night. Like let's say like I have an argument with someone or some turmoil, I'm like, man, that's probably going to keep me up. Let me just go like rectify that real quick or like just, squash that or do an apology or get an apology or something. Um, so I just, with that, I would say like I try to just be, like the ultimate honesty with myself and the people around me. Like I try never to lie like to myself or to anyone else, even
Huge.
if it's gonna like hurt people's feelings. Like obviously I don't want to like I'm not trying to bully anybody, but like I try to be like, you know, ultimately inclusing and helping and honest because I find that's what helps me sleep the most. Like at the end of the night, I have a clean conscience. I just go to bed and then I also watch out for things where I can tell in real time, like that is going to irk me tonight. Like the plumbing, like we were talking about, like, hey, I'm going to be a little late. Like I'm working on this plumbing. That was irking me. I was like, if I know this water valve is not cut off tonight, I'm not going to sleep tonight because I'm going to be like, man, the water is leaking in, the wall and doing like water damage. So I try to see those in real time and I
Mhm.
just try to nip them in the butt. And, it might be like a fight's coming up. I'm not training enough. I need to train more, or like I'm training too much, or like, hey, if I don't have that rifle zeroed to like this extent, I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep because I don't have the accuracy I want going on this elk hunt. So I know if I'm going to like hyper fixate on something like that, I just make sure like I do everything in my power to like nip it in the butt. That way, when it comes time to sleep, I'm ready to rock. And it's actually a mindset I learned off ultra athletes, like watching like Cam and them do ultra athletes. They say when you feel like quitting, you probably need sleep, and I forgot what athlete said it, but he's like, when you feel like you're dying and the world's caving in, just lay down on the trail and get some REM sleep. And so I was like, you know what? I like that. I'm gonna try that. So like when I'm elk hunting sometimes, I'm like, dude, I'm quitting. I'm getting out of these woods. I'm tired. I'm cooked. I'm going to the truck. I'm done. I have that quote, I can't remember who said it. It might have been that female he was running with. I forgot her name, who like almost ran herself to death. They had to pull her out of the race. But so I started doing that, man, and it works perfectly. Like I even did it today. I got no sleep last night. I was working my ass off this morning hard trying to get through some plumbing issues and work out and do all this meal prep and I was behind. And it just like fatigued and I started getting to the point where I'm like, dude, I'm just dragging through mud. And I'm like, I know the answer to this, man. I just need not even a lot of REM sleep. Like let me just get 90 minutes of REM sleep somewhere, like under a desk or something. And I woke up and I was like, oh, dude, what was I worried about again? So
Okay.
I try to remind people that when they're like, they walk in and it happens, but they're like, woe is me. This sucks. The sky's falling. I can't believe this. I'm like, man, how'd you sleep last night? Oh, I slept like shit. It's usually never the opposite. Someone's like, man, this sucks. I hate this guy. This stinks. I'm like, man, how'd you sleep last night? Oh, great dog. 10 hours. 10 hours. Great amount of REM sleep. It's usually never that case. It's like someone's circling the drain because you just need some REM sleep.
Right, right, right. I mean, okay. I do like the approach, put out the big fires, control the controllables, whatever you can. If there's something hanging over your head, address it immediately so it doesn't
Yeah,
get
don't
out of
even
hand.
let it yeah, don't
Sometimes
even let it linger.
but sometimes there's gonna be an event or a thing that you can't address or it will take a series of instances of you addressing it before it's completely rectified, so it could still linger. So at the end of the day, you still just do what you can with the time that you have and your resources, and then leave the rest to God, and you should be fine. When you're training hard, what do you like to listen to?
Ooh, that's good. Usually I'm training pace things. So like if I'm hitting the bag, I'm trying to set a tempo or working out, I try to have like high tempo music. And I've learned dubstep's really good, heavy metal. I'm not into like the screamo where you can't understand them, but like punk cover remixes where they're doing like early 2000 music, but they're doing like punk covers. Essentially anything that's going to get like cortisol and some adrenals going. And then has a tempo I want. You know, if I was trying to like lay down and go to sleep or I'm like choreographing something slow, I'll slow the music down. But I'm a big, pace and tempo guy because, fighters is all about like a tempo, 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 and then interrupting it. So I find that, like fast music,
Nice.
rock, heavy metal, dubstep, a mixture of the cover bands, some punk metal. I don't want to. I'm not listening to like jazz in the gym. That's not going to make me go hit the bench press till I can't feel my arms.
Right, right. What about, a bucket list adventure? It's you and your wife, and neither one of you could have done it before. So it's something completely foreign to the both of you, but you guys go and do it together.
Mm, that'd be good. I'd say her coming elk hunting with me.
But you've done it before, so you can't do that, so you gotta try again.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Something new. That's a good question. Let me think on that one. Let me think on that one.
Favorite sports movie?
So, favorite sports movie. Uh, ooh, We Are the Titans. That's a good one.
Okay. Favorite fighting movie?
Mm,
It could
Probably Band of
be it
Brothers. Gonna lump that
okay.
in.
I was gonna say, so that's a military movie, or it
Yeah,
could be Rock.
series. Yeah, series slash movies or Saving Private Ryan, man.
That's huge. Could be Rocky, though. I think one of my favorite fighting movies is Last of the Mohicans. Have you seen that one? Outstanding. Daniel
Not
Day-Lewis.
yet.
Yeah,
Not
so
yet.
he's it's based on a book, James Fenimore Cooper, and he's one of the Mohicans that's man, it's just awesome, awesome film, awesome film. You got a favorite book for us?
Um, yeah, probably Undeniable by Cameron Haynes.
Okay. I got that one behind me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sure is. Alright.
Yeah. Pretty undeniable. Yeah.
This next one, they could be real life people or fictional. You got a hero that you like?
That's a good one, dude. Probably Superman. I try to emulate that. Yeah.
Truth,
Like if you
justice, and
think
the
of like,
American way?
yeah, 100%. If you just think of someone who is like, it's almost corny when you say it. People are like, really, man, Superman. I'm like, what, dude? If we're gonna strive for something, let's just strive for that. Like, I'll fall
Right?
short and become Batman, but like, let's just strive for Superman.
Ouch. Who's a bad guy or a villain you like?
Ooh, that would be good. Man, let me think. A bad guy or a villain? Hmm. I don't know. Nothing's coming to me. Give me a second. Some will come to me.
For me, I usually pick Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs. I don't
Yeah,
know if you
he's
ever
a good one, dude.
he's nasty.
We use him. So my coach, I'll do a side tangent on that real quick. My coach talks about Hannibal Lecter all the time. He's like, man, fighting, whether you're winning or losing, you have to be like Hannibal Lecter, just nothing. Like whether you're on the other side of a wood chipper getting teed up or you're dominating, just Hannibal Lecter. You just have to be nothing.
Wow. Alright. I like Darth Vader too. The most common answer is, Heath Ledger's the Joker. That's most people say. What's your
That's
favorite
funny.
l what's
I
that?
was thinking saying that. Yeah, I was thinking of saying that. It's like, nah, I don't like the Joker that much.
I like Heath Ledger's Joker, though. It was outstanding.
Oh yeah, he
Um,
played it the best.
yeah, it was so dialed in.
I
What's
think
your
he did
favorite
a month on a side tangent. I think he did a month in a hotel room to prepare for that role. I think they were saying.
I think not only that, I think he never left character.
Yeah, he
Like,
just stated. Yeah,
he just stayed psycho the whole time, right?
yeah. That's oof.
What's your favorite lift?
Um, lift. Ooh, the lat row, lat
Really?
pull down. Yeah, lat pull
Alright,
down. I love lat pull downs, man.
alright. Uh, you got a quote for us?
Quote. Um, hmm, yeah, prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. I've come to learn and love that one a lot. I first heard it from a gunnery sergeant. I wasn't in the Marines, but I was in JRTC in high school, and I had a gunnery sergeant, and he would always say that. Like any time we brought him like a woe is me or like whatever, could be anything. Forgot my lunch, didn't bring this, didn't bring that. 7 Ps. What about them 7 Ps? I was like, I know, I know. He's like, well, you don't know because you didn't do them.
Right. Um, bucket list adventure, you and your wife.
Hmm. Bucket list adventure.
Cleveland. Go to Cleveland.
Cle- Cleveland. We've been to Cleveland.
Oh, dang. All
Uh,
right.
yeah, I lived in Ohio, lived in Amelia for a long time, worked
All
in
right.
Akron.
All right. Yep.
Um, dude, a bucket list adventure. I would probably, I don't, travel in some type of way, but I'm not sure where. Like seeing something in awe, that would be pretty cool. Maybe I was thinking of doing like the pyramids to perceptualize how big they actually are, like Giza or something, and then try to like put that together, like how they build that with, sticks and stones. But I'm not a big fan of traveling outside the country, man. I love, I've traveled a few places and it's like, man, nothing beats the continental United States.
For the most part, my wife and I sometimes we'll do a beach vacation, but we haven't done one in years. We mostly just go to national parks and pick a different one, and we just hang out. So we'll hike up and around whatever and have an outstanding time. I know we would probably like to go see the Vatican in Rome or castles in Scotland. And my wife's a total dork in that if we had a bunch of money in a couple weeks, she'd want to go over to Europe to see Normandy and Holland and see the U.S. sites from World War II. We have over 1,100 books in our basement, and a good half of them are military. And she's read almost all of them. And so she's all about the history of the United States. In fact, she dragged me to this event recently. It's a podcast, and the host is a professor out of a university in Utah, and he makes U.S. history pretty interesting. And it's called History That Doesn't Suck. And so he was speaking at a local university, and she dragged me to it, and it ended up being a pretty good time. So I guess I
Oh,
would
sweet.
probably take her some sites in Europe where we would see because some of that land now was gifted to the United States to hold the graves for the soldiers and stuff, and she would love that. Um, Man, Briggs, I can keep asking you questions, and I'm having a great time, but I want to be respectful of your time. Where can people find you and what you're doing?
Yeah, so my biggest thing is Instagram. That's kind of like my motherboard of all my social media. It's just Briggs_Pittman, BRIGGS_PITTMAN. I have a Facebook as well, but I just link it so all my stuff goes right from Instagram to Facebook. And then YouTube channel as well, Briggs Pittman. And then I'm going to be doing more. I'm going to be doing this year encompassing like whole elk breakdown videos. A lot of them are just me putting my Instagram videos and shorts onto YouTube. So I have it present on there so people can see it. But this coming year, I want to actually do a lot of how to videos of like tailoring up an elk. I think this year I'm going to have to bring in like tripods and stuff so I can set them up. That way I can do like a front to rear assessment of like breaking down the elk quarters, different things like that. Just try to add value.
Sure, sure. That's awesome. You might want to check out creating a community for that on School, SKOOL. So people look for that. That'd be awesome. Briggs, really enjoyed our time today. Thank you for your service. Thank you for my Monday night continuing education. So learned a bunch of things. Really enjoyed myself. For those that want to continue to reach out to us, info@athlete-builder.com. And we are brought to you by the AEA Institute. The Mental Edge Academy is our platform for building mental performance in gyms and high schools, in colleges, pro teams, and individual families. So hit me up for that as well. That's one of the hats I wear, and happy to do it. So, Briggs, hang out here once we're done for a little bit, ask a couple more questions. But man, thank you for the time. Thank you for the effort, the energy. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. All right, see you.